Ms. Sirowitz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all the witnesses, particularly Ms. Danzer and Ms. Sullivan, for your very personal remarks. Very much appreciate your stories. I would like to address most of my questions towards Mr. Colby. Mr. Colby, you've painted a pretty dire picture of what's going on in Alberta right now with business confidence, high unemployment rate. I don't think you mentioned the flight of capital as well. Can you maybe elaborate on the ground with your members about what we need to see in the province as it relates to regulation, deregulation, access to markets, access to capital, all those things that are really impeding Alberta's ability to grow and grow the economy and employ people?
Sure. Thank you for the question. What certainly amongst our members is that the lack of confidence is based on all of those issues that you cited. Regulation with federal regulations. Currently, as you know, I'm sure, Government of Alberta is looking at a red tape reduction strategy. They're making great strides toward that, and that's helping with that level of confidence or lack of confidence. Certainly, when we take a look at the regulations, when you take a look at access to capital, when you take a look at taxation, when you take a look at, say, regulations for the Income Tax Act, it's not just one of those items that is affecting the confidence level of Alberta businesses. You top onto that the uncertainty and the long protracted period that we've had with trying to get approvals to stick on pipelines. We're waiting now for approval of the Tech Frontier mine, which I think is going to be a real test for the Government of Canada as to whether they approve it or not. My point is, those individual one-offs on their own could affect confidence, but when you get a layering of those issues, one on top of the other, and when you get basically an overall negative outlook on the economy, certainly I think what it does is it sends, particularly for small businesses, into I guess a spiral of negativity, and that builds on itself. And then you also add to the whole issue of Albertans and Alberta businesses feeling that over the last 5 to 6 years, since we started this most recent downturn, that Alberta's been left to its own devices to try to climb out of this. It certainly creates an issue that Alberta is feeling, and its residents by default are feeling that perhaps the Government of Canada and the rest of Canada doesn't really care about the reality of what's going on in our province.
How important is market access for the companies in Alberta? It looks like TMX will eventually make its way to market, but how important is additional market access to the province?
Well, it's hugely important. I mean, when we take a look at where we have the differential at right now between the price of West Texas Intermediate and Western Canadian Select, that's exacerbated by basically the plug that we have or the capacity issues that we have in the current pipelines. So market access is huge for us, and that also has contributed to some, I think, of the negative outlook from business. And look at it's not just oil and gas who's affected by this. It's the people who service the oil and gas industry. It's the people who provide the hotels. It's the house builders. Every one of those individuals are affected by what's going on in the oil and gas industry, particularly due to lack of access or full access to Tidewater.
Move on